Welcome back to the Juggle is Real podcast. I'm Andryanna, and welcome to this new year, 2026, and a new day. This is a Tuesday release. And as I start a new year, I was thinking about my schedule and all of that sort of stuff. And so we're going to try Tuesday episode release dates for the next little while, see how that goes. So welcome. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here. And before we talk about goals and plans and intentions or anything like next, like new year, new you, I want to start by checking in. Like, seriously, how are you really feeling right now? Because if your answer is a little tired, a little foggy, emotionally just feeling drained, or like your body has not quite caught up to everything yet, first of all, you're not doing anything wrong. And that's me right now. That is me in this current time and space. And for a lot of us, women especially, moms especially, the holidays, like, it's not a restful time, right? Like, it's planning and organizing and hosting and carrying such a huge mental load, managing emotions, making things magical, holding everything together, often right through, if you got kids in school, like right until school starts again. And then, the calendar flips to January 1st. And then everyone is just saying, okay, time to like snap your fingers and get motivated and go hard and be better and make everything like new and fresh. And like all of a sudden you have to be like the best version and a better person. And so this episode intentionally is not that. We are going in a different direction. And so today I want to talk about easing into the new year, especially if your holidays were busy, loud, or just really demanding emotionally. This episode is about giving yourself a minute to just catch your breath a little bit, listen to what your body is actually asking of you, and maybe releasing a little bit of that pressure to jump back onto the hamster wheel just because it is January. So for this episode, we're going to talk about why January often kind of feels a little weird, like a little off for some of us, what winter is really asking of us biologically and emotionally, and how we can move into 2026 with alignment instead of that sense of urgency, like we're behind. So if you're in the same boat as me, you're feeling like you need a little bit of an ease into your year. This is the Juggle is Real podcast. I hope you feel seen, that you realize your worth, lighten your load, and prioritize your own needs. As we hear from leading experts and well-known faces in the wellness, entrepreneurship, education, and motherhood space, I hope you gain insights, proven practices, and learn actionable tools to help you enjoy the juggle of work, family, and everything in between with a little less stress and a lot more ease, joy, and fun. Most of all, I hope you find what you need to simplify, streamline, and supercharge your own journey of better balance and self-love. Are you with me? Let's get started. This episode is supported by Whirlpool. You might know we recently moved into a new house and there is so much on the go and so many emotions. There is so much excitement. There's tons of boxes still everywhere and pictures still to be hung. And there's many moments where we have been saying, where is my... And we're slowly settling in. But in the middle of it all, I realized something. And that is that your routines don't magically come with you. You have to rebuild them. One dinner, one drawer, one dishwasher cycle at a time. And honestly, I can say that Whirlpool has been such a big part of helping our family settle in and find that flow again. I love our new French door fridge. It has tons of space and flexible storage that we need for all the game day snacks and school lunches. And I have a designated snack zone so that I don't have to hear, "Mom, I'm hungry," every 5 minutes. The kids know where they can go to get a snack. I also love the Whirlpool 30-inch range. I think it's been my favorite. It has a wipe clean coating on the cooktop, so, when the inevitable pasta sauce spills or soup or scrambled eggs, I can literally just wipe it clean with water. No scrubbing, no harsh cleaners, just water, wait, and wipe. Honestly, it's amazing. And of course, anyone with kids or a busy household knows that the cleanup is constant, but my new Whirlpool dishwasher has total coverage wash, so everything comes out clean, no matter who loads the dishwasher. I'm talking about my husband. And then that third rack on the dishwasher is perfect for my little guy sippy cups. It fits mugs, little bowls, utensils, and those hockey night little snack plates. It truly handles it all. And so it's true what they say, that when the kitchen runs smoothly, the whole home feels more calm. And in this season of life, with school, sports, work, and just everything, those little pockets of ease. So if you're in a full season too, or you're dreaming up your own fresh start at home, check out the Whirlpool lineup to see how they're making family life more functional at whirlpool.ca. Because home isn't just where life happens, it's where routines take root. And when your space supports you, everything else just flows a little easier. Now let's get back. Okay, so I know January, the messages, they flood in, right? New year, new you. You got to fix yourself. You got to go on a diet. You got to burn it off. You got to push harder. And yet, when you look outside, especially if you are in the Northern Hemisphere, if you live in the North like me, but January compared to December, nothing really has changed, and nothing about what's going on in your life, in the world, is really supporting that new year, new you energy, right? So if we look at it from the standpoint of simply just the timing of the year, we know that the days are short. There is less light. Things in nature are quiet. There's a lot of hibernation. There's a lot of, trees with no leaves. And there's this deep sort of mismatch between what this season is asking of us and then what culture is sort of throwing onto us, or what those expectations have become, especially for women. And we can feel this tension, I would say acutely, right? Like, especially moms, especially women who are in or near midlife, especially for those of us whose bodies are already managing a lot of stress. There could be hormonal shifts. There's a lot of caregiving happening and a lot of emotional labor. So if January has never felt inspiring or energizing for you, or maybe if just currently right now how you're feeling this particular January is not in a super motivated state, it's not because there's something wrong with you. It's not because you lack discipline or you lack motivation. Maybe it's just that January isn't really designed for reinvention. So let's talk about that, because like the winter energy, our biology and our nervous system is built a little differently. And from a biological standpoint, winter is a season of energy conservation, right? So even there's research in chronobiology and seasonal affective patterns that shows that reduced daylight, I think most of us know this, but less daylight affects our serotonin, which is responsible for our mood regulation, our melatonin, which helps with our sleep cycles, our cortisol rhythms, which is the stress response, right? Like the cortisol, especially after the holidays, I feel like I need some cortisol support. And so because of this, right, because there's less daylight, because these hormones are disrupted and a little different, many people feel more tired. We feel less motivated. We feel a little bit more sensitive to stress. And so that stress response is heightened. And so when you're piling on a bunch of things, not to mention you're more sensitive to stress, I mean, it's kind of a recipe for maybe not crushing your resolutions. And maybe we're more drawn to the warmth and the rest and the cozy and the quiet. And I know that just because we're saying biologically we should be hibernating or resting doesn't necessarily mean that our schedules are going to allow for it. And even though we live with artificial light and modern schedules that are jam-packed, our nervous systems still respond to the season that we're in. The body doesn't operate on calendar dates, right? Like your body doesn't automatically wake up, from December 31st to January 1st being like, boom, I'm a whole new body, right? It responds to things like light and temperature and our rhythm. So if your nervous system feels more easily overwhelmed right now, well, that's not a personal failure, right? That is just information. That is just like simply telling you what's going on right now. And winter is not a time for constant output, even if you have to be doing things. But what I would like to talk about more is really leaning into January, especially as being a time for maintenance, for repair, and for restoring, like a restoration time. So let's talk about something that I find pretty supportive, like a little bit grounding, because when you look at the calendar from a context position, the start of the new year, it's not something that is naturally happening. This is human made. This is something like a man-made construct that has been shaped by politics, by religious systems, economic systems, not by the natural world. And historically, most cultures marked that renewal and that new beginning of growth in the spring, right? That's what kind of makes sense if you think about it. When the light returns, when growth begins again. And so if January is feeling more like a continuation of December, right, versus like that renewal and that beginning, it kind of makes sense from that standpoint, right? Your body isn't resisting the new year, new you. It's just responding to the season. And it's not about rejecting goals or rejecting structure or like totally giving up on your schedule, but it is kind of about timing. The body resets with light, not with pressure. So okay, it might make sense. You might be saying, okay, cool. However, I cannot just, rot in my bed until March, right? So let's talk about this conversation and how it matters for women and moms, people in midlife, people going through this stage. Our body, and I'm noticing this more and more since I've turned 40, my body is just like being so honest with me, like I can't just say, okay, I'm doing this, or like I can't just cue it up and all of a sudden perform the way I used to, right? My body is like, no, like just you can't. And what my body is telling me is that it wants sustainability. So the fall was a very busy season. Q4 was super busy. The holidays were so busy. Like I feel like I had the most beautiful holiday season. I had a wonderful time. Nothing went wrong, but holy smokes, like I am like, how is it January? Like it just feels like we were starting December and I snapped my fingers and it was bam, bam, bam. All of this is over and all of a sudden we're starting a new year. So if you're feeling like me after all of the juggling with school schedules and the holidays, maybe you've been hosting, you've got kids at home, there's a lot of emotional labor. The body is maybe signaling like, take it down a notch, like enough, simmer down. And that is not weakness. I feel like, as you age, your body is gaining wisdom. And of course, it's now what I know is when you're ignoring those little whispers and those signals that your body is telling you, that is what leads to illness. That is what leads to burnout. That's what leads to like this really, really heightened nervous system that is super dysregulated. However, when we're listening versus ignoring, we can become more resilient, because when we are listening and giving ourselves permission to actually do what our body is asking of us, that is how we can move forward. And that is how we can enter this new year in a way that does feel really aligned and feels really good. So I do want to be clear about something, because I'm not saying that like you can't have a new year, new you energy, and you might love January. You might feel really energized, and you might want to like really get back into something like hardcore, whether it's, movement or setting goals or like redoing your house and getting everything clean and doing like a total reset. And you might have a lot of momentum and you might feel really energized, and that is valid. And that if that is you, whew, good for you. I mean, roll with it, right? Just don't overdo it. And if you're feeling more like me, where you're kind of on the opposite end of that spectrum, and you might be craving quieter days, maybe a slower morning, maybe just less stimulation altogether, I just am here to say that that is valid too. And if you're wanting to care for yourself in that sort of way, like it's not quitting. It doesn't mean that you're failing. It's not something that you should punish yourself for. So listening to your body, whether it's saying like I have a ton of energy, use it, or saying I'm feeling really low, listening to that is how you're going to enter this new year. So if the energy's there, follow it. If it's not, do not force it. Nothing needs fixing. Basically, motto of this episode, roll with how you're feeling. And so how can we do this? I want to go over some realistic and accessible things that we can actually do, because, regardless of how your holidays went or how busy your season was, I think oftentimes in the winter, regardless, because of how the season has less light and the less serotonin and melatonin and all of these different things, some of us might just feel low because of, the season. And so maybe we can romanticize winter in a way that's going to feel supportive, in a way that's realistic, in a way that's like, well, I've still got to work, still have kids, I still have this family, I have a house to run. How can we make it feel better in ways that are actually doable? So romanticizing winter doesn't mean making life aesthetic or, picture perfect or like, IG, as, amazing. It just means to work with the season instead of against it. So what does this look like? Maybe it means like you are going to bed earlier. You're prioritizing sleep without the guilt. You're choosing warm and grounding foods instead of, making 5 a.m. smoothies or like chomping on celery at lunchtime. Like maybe it's making or looking for a few recipes or buying soups, stews, simple meals, things that are easy to digest. Maybe it's instead of like new year, new me, and I have to like find all these cool new hobbies, it's maybe like, can I pick up a new book or like, revisit reading or something like knitting, crocheting, puzzling, get back into journaling, things that feel more restorative. And things like, some habit shifts, it's not like black or white here, but maybe it's like, you know what, I am going to do a little scrolling, less scrolling, especially at night, staying away from screens in the evening time so that I can go to bed earlier. And maybe it's like putting some like settings on your phone. I know I do this with my kids' devices where, at a certain time, things are going to shut off or they're allowed a certain amount of time during the day. How can you kind of step into this season of January without a black and white mentality, without it being like all or nothing, but in ways that you think can be supportive? Maybe it's like, okay, I'm taking the Christmas tree down, but can we keep some twinkle lights? And so instead of having like all the harsh lighting in the evening, maybe it's like dimmer lights in the evening that signals to your body that you can rest more. And maybe it is having a slower morning. Maybe if you did have a routine that was like, I have to wake up at a certain time and I have to do this or I have to do that, maybe you're allowing yourself a few mornings where you're sleeping in later or you're having a slower start to your day. And maybe it is about, starting the new year with, a little bit of a different boundary, saying no to certain things without having to explain yourself. And importantly, I know we've been talking about winter as being like hibernation and resting and less light, but maybe it means stepping outside every day, even if it's for small amounts, to get some of the light. When the light is out, feeling that sunshine on your face on the days when it's sunny, or just getting a few breaths of fresh air. These are practices that can help regulate the nervous system and stabilize our hormones and reduce stress in ways that are simple. It's not indulgent. It's just a way to support yourself. And so, talking about New Year's and New Year's resolutions, there are some studies, and there is research in behavioral psychology that shows that when we're talking about our intention versus resolution, the all or nothing approach to our goals can increase shame and increase dropout rates. And that's why a lot of the time, you see like an influx all of a sudden in January, people going to the gym. And then by February 1st, a lot of those memberships aren't being utilized, right? Because if it's, I have to do this all or nothing, if you miss or if you skip or if you're not feeling it, then you completely abandon it altogether. Versus smaller changes, setting your intention, looking at your values and making changes based on your values. These are things that are a little bit more sustainable, right? And so habit building versus an all or nothing goal resolution approach actually works better because it's tied to your identity, who you are, your environment, and where you're at right now, not based on motivation and willpower. So what's been really helpful for me and what a lot of research shows is that monthly intentions work because they are responsive. They allow you to adjust, right, monthly based on your energy, based on the season, based on your capacity at that time. So instead of asking, what should I fix? We're going to ask, what would be most supportive? What would support me right now here in January? How I'm feeling right now? What's going to be most supportive? And so I did put together a little bit of a just like intention setting to support us for the month of January. It's just like a few little questions. Some of them are just like checking an item like from a list or circling an item to support us in recognizing how we're feeling and then taking that and really just understanding this is where I'm at right now, giving yourself grace, showing yourself a lot of love and support for where you are now, and saying, okay, so now what's going to support me moving through the month? And so you can get that in the notes for this podcast episode. It's a free download. It's very simple. It's very basic. I would love for you to fill it out if you can print it. If not, you can look on it on your phone, maybe jot down some notes in the notes section of your phone, write yourself a few little notes in a journal if that's helpful. But just looking at ways that we can be supportive. And this is exactly how I use the Juggle is Real Authentic Self-Care Planner. It's that monthly intention with daily prompts to check in. It's not another thing to manage, but it's just like this check-in tool. And so in January, it might look like setting one intention around your rest and how you're sleeping and how you're giving yourself that reset. It might be looking at one small way to nourish your body in a way that's going to be helpful and supportive. So it's not going on a crazy crash diet, but what can you do? What can you notice that your body is craving? Maybe it's adding more water, or maybe it is taking a supplement that's going to be helpful, or maybe it's, doing something like making a big pot of soup on the weekend so that you have a few days of that like really beautiful, nourishing, warm, comforting meal that is easy and ready for you. It might be setting one intention around boundaries or how you're choosing to work or how you're choosing to, say yes or no to the things that are on your plate. So it's not adding more. It's just noticing what's needed, and so you can also find a link for the Juggle is Real Authentic Self-Care Planner in the notes for this podcast episode. It's also on Amazon, so you can check it out there. But right now for me, when I'm just taking a breath and I'm looking at past years, what my energy levels were, how I was feeling, what was motivating me then, what was on my plate then compared to this year, what the biggest thing that stands out for me is that rest, is to like regulate and just get back into feeling aligned in my body. Like we've hosted a number of things and I've loved it. I've loved having people in our new home, and we've got a rink in the backyard, and we had our whole family here for a big sleepover for New Year's Eve. And now that the holidays are over, now that I'm looking to, getting back into a routine when school starts with my kids, my body is very clear, and instead of overriding how I feel, I'm listening. I'm just like, okay, you know what? I don't need to subject myself into the no pain, no gain mentality. I don't have to feel like I'm falling behind. I can lean into, okay, what are some ways that I can rest more, that I can feel more aligned, that I can feel better in my body? That's going to be alignment for me. So if you take nothing else from this episode, let it be this. The winter, January, Jan 1, it's not for completely reinventing yourself. Low energy does not mean low worth. Okay. Alignment matters more than intensity. And the small things are truly what's going to move the needle forward. And for me, rest is that strategy. Like rest is not a weakness. It's not this, I need to start over. It's, I just need to listen a little bit more. And I don't need to feel like I'm behind. I might just be wintering. I might just be in this period where I have to give my body what it needs from the perspective of all the 5 pillars of the Juggle is Real Self-Care Planner, right? Like I need to look at ways to move my body in a way that feels restorative, not like no pain, no gain. Like I need to look at things to remove from my schedule that feel really draining. And what can I add that feels really supportive? This is what winter is all about. It's restoring. It's, giving yourself that period to just pause and be calm so that when the light returns, you can have that energy that's needed. You can build back that motivation. You can have that sense of like, okay, I'm ready, So in closing, I would just say, let January be January, however it feels for you. Let winter be winter, and just trust that when the light returns, your energy is going to return too. But until then, you can rest, you can restore, and you can begin gently. You can do things that move the needle forward in a way that doesn't feel draining. And if you want to take a look at that January intention setting, really listening to your body and moving forward in a way that feels supportive, it's a free download that you can get in the notes for this podcast episode. And check out the Juggle is Real Self-Care Planner. It's a tool that has helped so many, not only in January, but year round, just make sure that we are staying on track with small habits that really are supportive. I'm so glad you're here. Thank you for joining me on my first episode of 2026. We'll be here again next week on Tuesday, a new day for launching new episodes. I'm so glad that you made it for this one. And until the next episode, make sure that you've subscribed, share this one with a friend, someone who could use a gentle start. Write me a short and sweet review on Apple Podcasts, and I will see you back here for the next episode of the Juggle is Real podcast. Take good care.